When you think of ancient Egypt, your mind probably summons images of hieroglyphics, pharaohs, and mummified remains. Mummies have been wrapped up in countless creepy myths and exaggerated legends over the centuries. But how much do you know about their history? Let us find out in these 9 surprising facts you never knew about ancient mummies. Number 1. The practice didn't start in Egypt. The mummification process is so deeply associated with ancient Egyptian culture that the word mummy has become synonymous with it. However, the process was performed on every continent of the planet by various cultures. According to reports from Public Radio International, an ancient South American culture known as the Chinchorro were the first to mummify their deceased loved ones 2,000 years before Egyptians formed their technique. Inhabiting the Pacific coastal region of current northern Chile and southern Peru, the Chinchorro used a different mummification technique. They removed the flesh of the dead bodies, dried the bones with hot ashes, reapplied the skin, and supplemented where needed with a sea lion or pelican skin. Mummification was practiced by several other cultures, including the Inca and the Aztecs from pre-Columbian Americas, the Maori people of New Zealand, the Guanches, who inhabited the Canary Islands in present-day Spain, and the Ibaloi people in the northern Philippines. Number 2. The Egyptian process took 70 days. The entire mummification process took 70 days, where special priests worked as embalmers, treating and wrapping the body. Beyond knowing the correct rituals and prayers to be performed at various stages, the priests also needed a detailed knowledge of human anatomy. The first step in the process was the removal of all internal parts that might decay rapidly. The brain was removed by carefully inserting special hooked instruments up through the nostrils to pull out bits of brain tissue. It was a delicate operation, one which could easily disfigure the face. They would then use a type of salt called natron to remove all the moisture from the body. After making the deceased appear as lifelike as possible by filling in sunken areas with linen and adding fake eyes, they would begin wrapping them with hundreds of yards of linen. The resin was used between the layers of cloth to keep it secure. Number 3. They left the heart in place. As a result of various methods of study over many decades, modern Egyptologists now have an accurate understanding of how the process of mummification was carried out in ancient Egypt. The first step was to remove all internal organs from the deceased as they decay fast. This was extremely important to halt the process of decomposition. Despite that, based on research done by the Smithsonian Institute, it is revealed that ancient Egyptians would never remove the deceased heart as they believe it to be the center of a person's being and intelligence. Number 4. Egyptians mummified animals too. Archaeologists uncovered more than a few critters entombed beside human remains. Millions of them, in fact. The History Channel claims that researchers believe they produced more than 70 million animal mummies between 800 BC and 400 AD. This included cats, birds, cows, frogs, baboons, and countless other creatures who were either personal pets of the deceased or intended as offerings or protection for them in the afterlife. Number 5. Removed internal organs are sealed in jars. The removed internal organs were preserved separately. The stomach, liver, lungs, and intestines were placed in special jars known today as canopic jars. The design of canopic jars changed over time. Some have plain lids, some depict human heads, some have their covers depicting the head of Anubis, the god of death and embalming, and some feature the 4 sons of the god Horus, who acted as guardians of the organs in the jars. The canopic jars were buried along with the mummy. In later Egyptian dynasties, the internal organs were not placed in jars, but instead they were treated, wrapped, and replaced within the body of the deceased. However, canopic jars remained a part of the ritual and were buried along with the dead, albeit empty. Number 6. Mouths were often left open. The British Museum explains how there was a whole ritual known as an opening of the mouth ceremony. This required a special tool and was done so the deceased could eat, drink, breathe and speak in the afterlife, per their beliefs. Number 7. Mummification was a lucrative business. The highly skilled Egyptian embalmers were paid well for their careful work. According to reports from NPR, they even formed trade unions to protect their techniques. Number 8. Remains were used in medicine in the Middle Ages. The Smithsonian magazine revealed the troubling special ingredient many medieval Europeans believed helped cure whatever might ail them: mummy flesh. Grave robbers would travel back from Egypt with remains and sell them to everyone from royals to regular civilians for a pretty penny. Essentially, they were treating any ache or pain by cannibalizing ancient humans. Number 9. Victorians held unwrapping parties. Known as mummy unrollings, Atlas Obscura explains how folks would gather in the 1800s at the height of Egyptomania to watch as their hosts would slowly reveal a mummy underneath the layers of ancient linen. And that concludes our list of 9 surprising things that you probably never knew about ancient mummies. What do you think? Does any of the things listed here shock you? Tell us what you think in the comment section down below. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you again in the next video.